Hi everyone, I'm Tori Delory and I am really honored to be speaking here again for my second year at the VanLife Summit for Project VanLife. I have been building and living in this self-converted camper van for 3 years now. And before that, I used to car camp before I even had heard the word van life or knew anything about it. So this lifestyle has been in my heart for a long time now, and I am super excited to get to talk to you about some of the things that I have learned along that journey. So I am currently the social media manager for Project VanLife, and I make videos on YouTube, which is my passion and I love doing that, about van life. I will be doing a full van build series on my channel if you're interested. I am also the author of the Maintenance Guide and Logbook for Project VanLife. And today I want to discuss how you can keep your vehicle in great shape while living on the road. So, of course, when you spend a lot of time and money on a camper van, you want it to last as long as possible. And taking care of your vehicle is the very first step to doing that. So before starting van life, I didn't know much about vehicle care or maintenance at all. And while it has always been important, it's even more important now that you're living in your vehicle. I mean, a breakdown can mean having nowhere to live for an indefinite amount of time and having to spend money on hotels and other accommodations, which can add up pretty quickly. So in my 3 years of living in this camper van, I have also found that with most issues, you can tell mechanics that you need your vehicle back overnight, and they have always been very accommodating and helpful to me and have been able to let me bring it back in the morning. So, however, there is, of course, the opposite side of that, where if it's a major issue and you can't drive your vehicle, that is when the real trouble comes in. So today I want to talk about cart maintenance, so we can do and see your vehicle in its best condition to avoid that latter situation. So let's start simple with what information you should keep in your vehicle in case of an emergency. All right, so you should keep a list of contact information for your dealership, the person or van build company you bought your vehicle from, your most used auto shop, AAA, or similar service, and your insurance company, of course. The last thing you want to be doing in an emergency is having to look up and find those numbers, so having them written somewhere outside of your phone as well is also really helpful. Next, have prepared the information about your vehicle. This sheet here is found in the maintenance guide as well as the other pages I'll be showing throughout the presentation if you want to find them later on. So have handy or memorize your vehicle make, model, and year, your license plate, VIN number, tire pressure, type of engine, and of course, keeping track of information about when you bought the vehicle. From the purchase date, mileage at purchase, and who you purchased your vehicle from, and their contact information as well. All right, so this next section, I have highly recommend that you take out your phone and add these dates into your calendar right away for reminders when the dates come around so you don't forget or have to think about it, and you can kind of just have some ease with that. So, when will you need to renew your inspection, your driver's license, your registration, and your insurance? You can also include your vehicle loan or financing due dates as well in your calendar. But this will help you ease the stress of having to remember when all these things are coming up or thinking about, what am I missing? So your phone will just buzz and tell you when it's time to renew them. All right. So something else that I keep in my vehicle is this quick reference parts list. One major expense for me when living on the road has been repairs, and not always major repairs, things that I can change myself too. So when my ambient air temperature sensor broke, I learned it would cost like $200 for a mechanic to fix it. But I pulled up a YouTube video and I learned it was like a 20-minute fix, and I didn't need any fancy tools beyond a screwdriver. So I decided to fix it myself. However, I did have to buy that part to fix. Basically, you remove the mirror and you just put a new one in. And this list that I have is to keep track of parts you buy, because if I have to replace it again, it's easier to just look it up on this sheet instead of having to re-look it all up. I found this list comes most in handy when it comes to oil changes. All right, so the name of the oil filter you use, the oil, the size of the wrench, I need to keep track of all of that whenever I do my oil, and it comes around so often that having it here on this list is super helpful. So with that, I also suggest that you keep a maintenance log every time you go to a mechanic or you do a repair yourself. Keep track of these things, especially if you plan to resell your vehicle. You can buy any notebook and just start logging your vehicle's maintenance in it. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be anything you want under the sun. Just keep it in your glove compartment and you're good to go. All right, one more thing before we get into the maintenance checklists. I want to talk about how you can get better gas mileage. So the very first thing that I recommend you do is just drive efficiently, of course. From not speeding or braking and driving poorly, those things all affect your gas mileage. According to Investopedia, these things can negatively affect fuel economy between 15 and 30%. Gas mileage also often decreases above 50 miles per hour, and cruise control can make a big difference when it comes to, steadying out and increasing gas mileage. So avoid rushing up to red lights or tailgating and, not having to make sudden stops. Those things all make a difference. Next, avoid idling. According to GM Financial, idling uses more fuel than restarting your vehicle and can give off 80% more pollution than when your car is in motion. According to Investopedia, turning your car off can save about 3 cents per minute. Number 3, stay up to date on maintenance. Replacing spark plugs, changing your oil, having the correct tire pressure, and getting alignments can all make a really big difference. And number 4, remove excess weight, which I know can be really hard in a van build, but be conscious of the materials you use during the build, as well as everything you add after the fact when you're moving in. And finally, plan your trips, avoiding traveling through rush hour or through construction, and planning your trips to combine errands and just having to just avoid driving extra, basically. This will all help you avoid using more gas and lots of excess braking, slow traffic, etc. All right, now it's time to discuss the monthly, quarterly, and biannual things you should be doing for your vehicle's maintenance. All right, so once a month, here's what you should be doing. Start by checking your tires. Check your tire pressure, check for any wear and tear, and check tread depth. Tread depth can really easily be checked with just using the upside down side of a penny. All right, so here's how you do that. If the tire does not cover Lincoln's head, then that means your tire is worn down and unsafe to drive on, and it's probably time for a replacement. Next, check your lights, your headlights, your taillights, your signal lights, and your brake lights. Also, if you need to have any of these replaced, I recommend doing it yourself. It's really expensive for a mechanic to do it, but it took me literally 8 minutes to replace my headlight, and you don't need any fancy tools. So I saved a lot of money doing that, and I recommend it for you as well. So after that, clean your solar panels. Even a small section of dirt on them can render the whole panel useless. Make sure your maintenance log is then up to date after you do all of that. And if you've been by a beach or a salty area, get a car wash to avoid rust on the exterior of your vehicle. If you have a heater, like a Webasto, like I do, you also need to do preventative maintenance if it's not being used. So during the summer months, if you're not using it, you need to still be turning on your heater every once in a while. Just keep the system clean and ready and in good condition for the winter months, because that is something else that would be a real tragedy if it decided to break down, which of course it would pick, the night that it's -20. Been there, done that, don't recommend it. And then finally, check your engine bay. The images I'm going to show you now are of a 2015 Ram ProMaster, which is what I have. That'll of course differ from vehicle to vehicle, but hopefully it'll still give you an idea. All right. So check your engine filter, your windshield wiper fluid, your cabin filter, your engine oil level, and your coolant and antifreeze levels. And an important side note, never open your coolant directly after driving. Let your engine cool down first. All right. And here is the image of the checklist from the Maintenance Ebook if you want to screenshot it now. But of course, if you want to, you can also download that ebook for free through Project VanLife. All right, so let us move on to the quarterly checklist. This should be completed every 4 months or 3,000 to 5,000 miles. Check your battery, that's number 1. Check it for the charge, check its terminals and connections, and check for any corrosion. Then on the exterior of your vehicle, check for rust and damage that may need to be repaired. Check for cracks in mirrors and glass, and just look around, see what's up. Also, when you check the engine bay for your monthly checklist, also add that this time you should be checking for the power steering fluid, auto transmission levels, and the hoses for cracks or bulges. And finally, complete an oil change every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. You can either schedule an appointment or you can do it yourself. And if you do it yourself, don't forget to also change the oil filter, and then add all of this to your maintenance log, of course, as always. And note that if you hit 30,000, 60,000, or 90,000 miles, your vehicle should be taken into a mechanic, wherever you want to go, for an additional inspection. This is just kind of like a regular maintenance kind of thing. All right, now comes the biannual checklist that is to be completed every 6 months or 12,000 to 15,000 miles. Evaluate your exhaust, shock absorbers, and brake pads. That's step 1. Check your brake fluid level and color. Check your spare tires for leaks, damage, and tire pressure. And if you have four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, change your transfer case fluid every 30,000 miles. Check your wheel alignment, wheel bearings, and spark plugs. And finally, you should rotate your tires and replace your cabin and air filters. If you have driven 60,000 miles, then also flush your coolant. And if it's in the winter or summer season that's ending, then you may need to also change your tires if you have winter tires or specialty tires or things like that. All right, so if you really want to do a full inspection of a vehicle, whether you're about to buy it or if you just want to check it out, your own vehicle, see where it's at, then check out the ebook for our full inspection checklist. I won't go over this completely. It's pretty self-explanatory and lengthy, but it will tell you everything you should look through. I highly recommend using it if you're looking at buying a used vehicle. When I bought my first van 3 years ago, it was a very scary experience. I knew I was walking in there alone with no knowledge of these giant vehicles, and I just had no idea what to look for. And that's okay if you're there too. Ends up, one of the vehicle's windows were broken. The buttons didn't work. I didn't have cruise control like they said I would. And if I had used this checklist, I would have known those things ahead of time, which would have been wonderful. And of course, after the fact, even though the vehicle was under warranty, the dealership refused to fix them. So just download the ebook and print it out for free, and it could save you some extra money. All right, a question I get asked a lot is, what do van lifers do when their vehicle is in the shop? I know it can seem really scary to not only lose your home, but hand it over to complete strangers for a day or sometimes longer. I'm going to go on a real quick tangent about this, about why I think partition doors in van builds are gold. When going to get my oil changed in Vermont 2 years ago, the guy who changed my oil actually started stalking me. And someone else said to me, how do you know he didn't go through your stuff in the back of the vehicle or install a camera in the back of the van? And I didn't, of course, at the time. Well, at this point, I'm sure he didn't, and I haven't ever noticed anything with mechanics having me feel like they have. I do have a lot of safety concerns as a solo female traveler, and I have had some unfortunate and uncomfortable situations at mechanic shops that make me wish I could lock the back of my van. And that is why in my next van that I'm building, I am putting a partition door in. The next van with a lock, with the lock in the front to just add that extra layer of security so I feel more comfortable handing over my home to someone. My summit presentation at last year's summit was on safety and how to build your camper van to be as safe and protected as possible from theft or intruders. And that full video is actually currently on my YouTube channel now if you're interested. I used to own a self-defense business, and as a solo female traveler, I take it very seriously. With that said, I have noticed over the last 3 years going to mechanic shops that it is super empowering to know your own vehicle. To understand it and to be able to sound like you know what you're talking about. And as a solo female, going into these shops, I find that if I have an idea of what the problem is, if I've Googled it and researched it and, taken time with it ahead of time, and I know how it has to be fixed, not only does it feel really badass walking in there, I feel confident that they can't overcharge me or, try to do something extra that doesn't need to be done or those kind of things. And you just kind of feel better. And once you start to know your vehicle that you live in on a daily basis, like it's a part of your life, you just feel more comfortable and confident. So I really recommend that. Plus, when they tell you that it'll be an extra $100 for labor to fix a window button, that all you need is a flathead screwdriver and 3 minutes of your life. And that is not worth $100. So if you're building a camper van on your own, if you're, strong and capable enough to be out there living on your own in a van, adapting, doing all these things, finding new parking spots every night, learning how to maintain and fix some of these small things in your vehicle, it is not as scary or as daunting as it sounds. And I really encourage you to try it, try it out, give it a try, especially if you're interested in converting a bus or a Sprinter or something like that, because parts and mechanics for those are harder to come by and more expensive. So you will genuinely thank yourself later. All right. Well, that is all I have for today. And again, if you want to learn more, you can check out my YouTube channel, Tori Delory, or find me on Instagram at Tori Delory. And thank you again to Project VanLife for hosting this summit, and I hope to see you all again next year. Thanks, everyone.